One of the things I've discovered in the years I've worked in the places I've worked is that in some ways all of us have suffered trauma. If I asked an Afghan who's gone through all the 40 years of war, what's the worst thing that's ever happened to them? They've never mentioned the war. They've always said, in the end, talked about something about family or some childhood incident. So the recognition as we work on community wellness and peace building, which is where I started in Afghanistan, is that as one heals inside from whatever trauma, that's how you can take that healing into the community, into the place between you and I, let's say. I realized very early that one doesn't do peace building if one hasn't helped people become peaceful inside. The program we have for a community program isn't a set of modules. What I do is work with the communities involved so that they create their own culturally appropriate and grounded process. So we have the tools of focusing and conflict resolution and all these different tools, but as we work in the community or in the group, they design in a way their own program as they heal. So it's like this, my hands are kind of feeling like it comes together and then rolls forward.
Yeah.
You know, everybody we work with, they are the experts.
Okay.
We are bringing in some new tools that they get to try to use, and they get to redesign to fit their own culture.
Mm-hmm.
That's why all the manuals we've developed to date, this one that Melinda brought for you to see is the first one in English.
Mm-hmm.
The other ones are not English manuals translated into the local language. They were literally created in the local language and never translated into English.
Oh, that's perfect.
Mm-hmm. So they're grounded. What happens in a program in Western Pakistan won't even be the same as something in Eastern Afghanistan.
Yeah.
You know, the cultures can vary just from village to village.
Yeah.
So they're also created in a way that each local group so I train trainers, right?
Yeah.
I don't train the people themselves. I train trainers.
Yes.
And they're trained in how to help the local community put it into their own way. So it's still not a rubber stamp. It's still not a written in stone method. It's like, okay, well, here's the skill or the healing we'd like to have you experience, and how can you make it so you experience it in a way that's culturally relevant? And we know it worked because when 5 years after I left Afghanistan, a German woman who didn't know focusing and didn't know me went to Afghanistan and did a study of the projects we had done, and no local people other than the original people who were trained, none of even the trainers knew that it was introduced by this crazy foreigner. They thought it was local. They just thought it was an Afghan thing. So when we're working, focusing is the process behind what we do as well. So as people are learning community wellness and peace building, and they're getting the focusing training, they're getting that ability to stop and feel inside what their body needs them to know. What is happening here? One of the things we teach is and help people understand is if you feel panic or fear or anger or pain, there's a reason for that. So stop and find out what it is before you react. And it's powerful. When I started working with Daniel in Uganda, and he told me that just by hearing us talk about kind of, there's all these places in me having these different reactions, just hearing that part, when one of his supervisors came in and yelled at him for making a mistake on data entry, he was able to go, oh, yeah, so this guy, if he had told me in a different way, I could take it in and know I just need to redo this. So I'm going to take what he said in a new way instead of just blowing up at him in return. You know, it gave him the pause. It gave him that ability to go, something else is going on here. And that's the start of peace building. That's the start of conflict resolution. And that's kind of what we work at. It's and then one more thing, and I will stop, is that I really look for spiritual connections where they're appropriate. What I have also discovered everywhere I've worked, and this is from Japan to Mexico to Afghanistan, the people who have that spiritual connection are already on the road to healing. The people who have said, this is God's fault, I don't like God, no God, no nothing, no higher, whatever. Those people don't have a way of healing. That anger seems to stop the process. So I look for ways that we can talk about not being alone within the pain, that there's some inner reserve, often connected to an outer power or a spiritual connection, but that healing, it's like Daniel said, so it's up, then in, and then out. You connect to something greater.